Yep, so I decided to take another certification exam. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Winifred. I am going to be touching on the CSM exam which I just took. I'm going to touch on the requirements, my experience, and my opinion on whether or not project managers should, consider taking this exam, if I think it's important, if I think it's needed. I'm just going to share my experience all around. So I hope you guys enjoy watching this video. Okay, so basically CSM means Certified Scrum Master, and Scrum is a project management methodology. So it's basically used within the agile approach. I'm not going to explain things in the textbook format, but I'm just going to explain based on the little knowledge I have. So most people that take the CSM exam are people that already work as Scrum Masters, are part of a Scrum team, and this basically just, you want to learn more of the Scrum values that help you in your day-to-day, or this can also be a way to show that you have that interest in the role that you might be interested in or wanting to apply for. There are no requirements outside of just taking a 2-day training session which is taught by a Scrum trainer. You do not have to have certain certifications or whatnot in order to take the exam, but you must pay for the 2-day training, which is basically 8 hours each day, so 16 hours in total. They'll basically just teach you the frameworks, the tools, objectives, the values, the team, all of that, right? And then they approve you to then take the exam. So you're paying for that training and all of that automatically means that you're paying for your exam. You don't have to then pay a separate fee in order to take the CSM exam. So for the price, it varies from, for what I've seen, $450-ish to about $700. Some instructors or trainers, Scrum trainers, charge more. I'm not sure why. I cannot give any information on this part. From the research I did, some cost for 70 something and some cost 700 and something. I think maybe the longer the training, the more expensive. I'm not sure. What I paid for was about 490 something, so basically 500. But I think on average this exam and the training and everything costs $500 USD. So once you've done the course with the Scrum trainer, right, you get an email from Scrum Alliance, basically just telling you the next steps and what you need to do in order to get certified and write your exam. So I'm just going to go through what I received because I cannot remember everything. They're just asking you to log into your Scrum Alliance dashboard. If you've not created an account, you will have to create an account. You have to accept a license in order to be able to write your exam. You will not be able to write your exam without accepting that license. And then they're just telling you the number of days that you have to write your exam and the number of attempts that you have. So from the day that you accept your license, you have 90 days, right, to write your exam, and then you have 2 free attempts to pass the test. After 2 free attempts or 90 days, you'll then be charged $25 if you do not pass the exam on first try. So let me actually touch on my experience doing the training and then taking the exam. So the training was quite intense. Just imagine 8 hours on your laptop, live. You literally have to have your video on. If you don't have your video on for a certain amount of time, what happened during my training was my instructor was yeah, you need to have your video on, and if you don't, then to him, you're not part of that class, you're not part of the training, you were not participating, so he cannot approve you to move on to the next stage, right? So videos on, paying attention, you're going into different groups, answering questions, kind of problem solving. It's not intense, but it can be just you are there on video for 8 hours straight, trying to grasp everything that the instructor is saying. They will share materials during the course of the class. The Scrum trainer is doing most of the talking, and then you can ask questions, kind of just problem solve together. It was quite interactive. You get 15 minutes break, I think, after every 2 hours or so. I cannot remember, but it wasn't you're just on your laptop for the full 8 hours. You get breaks, and then we had 30 minutes lunch break. I used that time to just nap. I was tired because you're just trying to listen, take notes. I was no, this is intense. For me, I think maybe at that point I was just really oh my God, why? But before you know it, 2 days just goes like this. Okay, so for the exam itself, right, I did take my time to write my exam. And I say that because when I did the training, I waited another month or 2. To be honest, I had 90 days, right? So I think I waited 2 months because for some reason I was just really nervous. And I remember this Scrum trainer explaining you need to take your exam as soon as possible because everything that you've learned during the training is just easier to take your exam. Like the materials, the teachings, everything, even on Scrum Alliance, they have like resources that can be helpful for your exam. So everything you study most likely is reflected in the exam. My experience taking the exam was like, why did I wait so long? It's not that serious. And that's why I said low effort, very important. You look at the YouTube videos that they share, the materials they share, which is very short actually. You can go through it like this. You then just log on and take your exam. Like, you need to answer 37 questions correctly in order to pass the exam. For me, the questions were quite easy and straightforward. Some were a bit confusing, you know how like there are 2 answers to a question, but I was just able to use whatever resources they gave us. So you have an hour to write the exam. Another thing is that it's an open test, but because it's timed, it's kind of like you don't have enough time to take your time and like review all the material. So you kind of want to just glance through before you write your exam, just get a sense of like who the product owner is, like what their role is, who will take care of like the sprint, like whatever. Some of the things that maybe the instructor like keeps like mentioning during the training, you want to just note those things so that, it's just ingrained. And then when you write your exam, you're good to go. So for me, the exam was quite easy, very low effort, in my opinion. The questions were straightforward. Some things were confusing, yes, but I just needed to answer 37 questions correctly, and I did, and I passed. I want to touch on why I decided to take the CSM exam in the first place. What sparked my interest? After taking the CAPM exam, which I touched on here or here. I'll put the link or the video in the description box below. I shared my experience with you guys. I decided that the next exam or certification I was going to go for was going to be low effort, high impact, because CAPM is something I consider high effort, mid impact. And when I talk about the effort, I'm talking what does it take to take this exam, the number of days I need to study, the requirements, and all of that. I would say CAPM demanded more of me and had more requirements than the CSM exam. And in terms of the impact, I would say CAPM has mid impact because, just when you look at the demand for it, I can't compare to the CSM, and I don't think you can compare. They're just 2 different exams, 2 different approaches. But even in the project management world, right, in terms of impact, when I took the exam, I didn't feel like, oh my God, people were like, you have the CAPM certification, you need to work at my company, that kind of thing. Just when I think about impact, I'll say like maybe PMP or Prince 2 has more impact than CAPM, but I'm still happy that I took the exam because I did not have the requirements that the PMP demanded from me. For CSM, I look at it as low effort, high impact. Low effort because 2 days for the training, there are no requirements or prerequisites to take the exam. In terms of cost, it's kind of like maybe only $150 more. It's not so expensive as some certifications that are out there right now. High impact because I think that Scrum is becoming like a big deal, and a lot of companies are trying to apply that value or Scrum values even in their project management world or within their project management team. A lot of companies are trying to move in the agile way, and when you just look at that, that's huge, that is high impact. So that's what kind of made me lean more into taking the CSM exam. I think that when you look at impact for certain certifications, you want to measure like what's in demand, what are people asking for, what are these companies putting out there. And I think that the CSM certification, depending on the industry, but I think in the next few years, it will still be relevant, right? So that's high impact. I currently work as a project manager, and that's something that I want to touch on because I think that in working as a project manager, it's not necessarily a need for me to take this certification. I'm not a Scrum Master, right? However, I just think that outside of the fact that companies are applying the agile approach, I'm also part of a Scrum team. It is nice to just chase that curiosity, learn as much as you can learn, and see what can be relevant in certain companies. When I was looking at project management roles, they were still requiring or listing as part of the qualifications that they liked. They were listing the CSM as part of those qualifications, and I was like, okay, even though it's not necessarily relating to your title, it's something that you might be required to basically like do certain responsibilities that the Scrum Master would be doing. All right, so now that I've touched on the price, the requirements, my experience writing the exam, I do want to touch on like whether or not I think project managers should take the CSM exam. So for me, I would not say this is a need, but I would say it's a very good, nice to have. certification. Does that make sense? Like, I don't think that your career is dependent on this exam, right? So as a project manager, and again in different industries, this just works differently. The project manager and the scrum master are doing two different things, but they're kind of achieving the same goal. Like we have the same goal within like a team, right? So it depends on the industry you're in. It depends on the industry that you want to be in. It also depends on the dynamics within your company, right? Some companies already like have scrum masters and have PMs. Some companies only have PMs, and some companies only have scrum masters and don't see the point of a PM. They go ahead and have product owners instead. So it's, you know, again, it depends. I think it is a nice to have because, like I said, companies are moving and applying like agile frameworks within their processes, going into the agile approach. I think the world is moving agile, and I don't think it's stopping anytime soon. There are certain industries that will always do the traditional approach to things, right? That's there. But if you have an idea of the industry that you want to be in, kind of do your research on like, okay, is this something that people are talking about? Like, do we apply the agile framework? Like, what does that look like, right? I also think that having a certification that, you know, like is in demand can easily help you pivot into whatever like industry or roles that you want, right? So if you desire a certain role but you're not ready yet, that's also just, you know, something that you can use as a leverage to get the desired industry or role that you want. Or I guess that makes sense. It's desired, so that means you want it. Also, you want to pay attention to the demand. I think that project managers sometimes are required to do the work of a scrum master and vice versa. So if that's the case, a CSM certification that is like low effort is a very good like approach. You know, you can take the exam, especially if you don't have the PMP yet. If you don't have the PMP yet, that might be a good exam to just have because it's in demand. Like, people are asking for it, recruiters are asking for it. It is literally stated in most descriptions. In the US, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but I think in the US I've seen the CSM certification stated in most job descriptions that I've seen for project manager titles, not just scrum master or whatnot, project manager titles. And why I'm saying that is because I think that some companies want you to do the job of a project manager and a scrum master. I don't support it. I don't think you should be doing two people's jobs, but you know, whatever that information does for you, I don't know, but like, just take it as it is. That's what I think. Also, if you're trying to get into project management, right, again, Scrum is a project management methodology. A Scrum Master can be a good entry point. I'm not saying it's entry level, so please, if you're a Scrum Master, I'm not saying like, you know, it's entry level at all, but I'm saying it's a good entry point. It's under project management, so like you are in project management, right? So that might be a good entry point. That's just what I want to touch on. If you're trying to decide between CAPM, CSM, or PMP, I don't think that you need to take either or. Does that make sense? Like, you need to know what is important for your role, what is important in your industry or the desired industry that you want to be in, what phase of life you are in, the kind of responsibilities that you want to be part of, you know, like what kind of responsibilities you want to be doing in your future role or in your current role, you know, like you want to think of those things and how does that align with whatever certification that you're going for. The CAPM is a different approach, different methodology, just so different from the CSM. I mean, not so different, but like they're different. Like they're not trying to teach you the same thing. Does that make sense? And I don't think you can compare both. It's just like, okay, what is the impact you're looking at right now? What kind of effort do you want to put into the certification that you're looking at right now? And what's your desired role? What's your desired industry? What's your desired responsibility or day-to-day responsibilities? I hope that makes sense. That's how I would look at it. And I wish someone told me that as well. So maybe you want to reach out to people, ask like within your network, which I did, you know, like just reach out to people. Like, what do you do on a day-to-day? What does that look like? Does that interest you? And do you think that if that interests you, like, do you think the certification that you're looking at is relevant to that interest or that role? I'm very happy that I took the CSM exam certification. I don't know. I'm very happy I took the exam. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I hope it was informative. I hope like I touched on everything possible. So please let me know if you have any questions. I will answer to the best of my knowledge. Okay. I don't know everything. If you want to know like the difference between a Scrum Master and a project manager, it might be helpful to kind of just do your research. But I'm going to leave some links that were helpful to me in the description box below. Yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. I will talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.